Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a cooking video, Thanksgiving leftovers. We're going to make sweet potato banana bread. I know, sounds crazy, but you're going to need 2 cups of mashed sweet potatoes. You're going to need 4 overripe bananas. This is going to make 2 breads, and you can always half it if you want. We're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I was thinking about substituting it, but I went ahead and I just made it for you guys regular. 4 large eggs, or 3 jumbo, which is the case for me. I have a cup of vegetable or canola oil. I'm using canola oil. You're also going to need 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, as well as 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Well, you don't need to use pure, but we do. And you're also going to need 1.5 cups of light brown sugar packed. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of baking soda, as well as 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This one uses both. And optionally, you can add nuts if you want to. I'm going to do one with half a cup of pecans and one with half a cup of walnuts. So the first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350, and then go ahead and spray your dishes. But I don't spray my dishes first. I spray them when I'm ready to use them. So what we're doing here is I made these sweet potatoes for Thanksgiving. And one of the things we always did in my house is we put holiday leftovers into gallon-sized Ziploc bags because they take up less room in the refrigerator as they start to empty out. What was really great about these is if you bake the potatoes and you put them in here, the next day the skins will just fall right off of them. So what I'm doing now is I have 1.25 large sweet potatoes that I made that were left over from Thanksgiving, and I'm pulling all of the peel off. I'm pulling all of their skins off, and I'm going to leave them in the Ziploc bag because this is going to help us tremendously. If you don't have leftovers and you would like to make this recipe, you basically need 1.5 cups, which is 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes baked, or this is 1.25, and we're going to get 2 cups out of it. But like I said, this recipe is actually double the original recipe, but that's how much sweet potatoes I had left over. So now I'm just mashing them in the bag. I'm using my fingers. When you can feel in there that I can break up when I'm breaking up the big pieces, and I'm just running my fingers over once all the big pieces are broken up. What I'm doing is I'm leaving them in the bag, and I'm just pushing them all down to one corner, kind of like when you do frosting. And the reason I'm doing this is because my plunger measuring cup, I'm just gonna put them into my plunger measuring cup that way. All right. So you guys have asked me before. This is from the Pampered Chef, but you can find them in other restaurants, supply stores, and kitchen supply stores. But this is a plunger measuring cup. One side for solids, one side for liquids. And this is a solid. I'm going to use my solid measuring side for this. And I'm just cutting the tip off, and I'm squeezing the sweet potatoes in there. And again, I'm just doing this because it's easier. They already were in the bag, so it's just easier for me this way. All right, but you can just mash them traditionally if you want to. You could put them in your stand mixer and beat them up as well. It's just easier to mash them before you measure them is what I'm trying to get to, I guess. All right. Just squeezing it all out of the bag. I'm sorry you can't see the very, very top of this because for you to see the bowl, really, really big measuring cup. I'm just showing you the empty bag there for a second. All right, and then we're just going to dump them into the mixing bowl. I also have measuring cups, measuring spoons, and a whisk. I'm doing all this by hand. I'm not using any electric beaters because it's a quick bread. And usually with quick bread, you don't really have to use an electric mixer. You can always, but you don't usually have to. All right, so I'm dumping all of them in there. And then the recipe, oddly enough, is like 1 cup of mashed sweet potatoes, but then just 2 large bananas. So there's not an exact measurement to the bananas. But since we're doubling it, it's 2 cups of sweet potato and 4 large bananas. But like I said, this is a very easy. If you want to get just 1 loaf of bread, you could just very easily cut this in half. I just had a lot of sweet potatoes left over because those sweet potatoes were huge. Okay. And these bananas weren't the ripest, and they still came out so good and delicious. I've never made it before with like not super ripe bananas. Does that make sense? Usually my bananas get so bad and then I put them in the freezer, and then they really get like really soft and sweet. But these ones had just turned over like a day or two ago, and this still ended up coming out really, really good. All right. So now I'm just taking a fork and I'm mashing up the bananas the best that I can. And I do apologize ahead of time, excuse me, for all of the light going in and out and in and out. I was using natural lighting. I had my overhead table on, but the window was open. The curtains were open, excuse me. And the light was coming and going and coming and going. So I apologize ahead of time. But I want to mash up the bananas just enough to be able to get my whisk in there. All right? And just pushing them against the side of the bowl. And this is just a regular dinner fork, nothing special. No special tools here. Now, I did mention in the intro that the recipe calls for 4 large eggs, but Jimmy, when he went to the store, they only had jumbo. Actually, he said jumbo were the cheapest. So I looked in a conversion chart, and 3 jumbo eggs equals 4 large eggs. So I'm going to be doing that. And coincidentally, oddly enough, the one of the jumbo eggs had a double yolk in there. So it just was funny. So now we're going to put in the 1.5 cups of packed brown sugar. So if you're cutting this recipe in half, that would be 3/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar, excuse me. And the sweet potatoes, this might not seem like a lot of sugar for a quick bread recipe, but the sweetness of the sweet potatoes as well as the sweetness of the bananas, once it was baked, I actually thought I probably could have cut back on some of the brown sugar because everything was super sweet. Everything came out really well. All right. And you guys know, if you've made quick breads before, I mean, I guess if you're watching this, maybe you haven't. But if you made banana bread before, you know, sometimes it's a little different each time. You know, sometimes your bananas aren't as sweet as the next time, or sometimes you have more bananas than the previous time. So it can alter a little bit. But I just loved this. Just a different way to use the sweet potatoes. I was going to teach you guys like a sweet potato whipped casserole, something left over that you could actually have like a savory dish. But I was like, you know what? Let me show you this recipe. We didn't make this one yet. All right. So now I'm cracking in the 3 eggs. I'm just cracking them into my measuring cup. It just makes it easier that if you don't get a shell in there, you know. And I'm just using my fork to break up the egg yolks and stuff before I get in there with my whisk. And you also want to add at this point your vanilla. So that's 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And we always use pure vanilla extract. Mom likes Mexican vanilla. We get that from here. And I'm also going to add your oil. So this is a 1/2 cup of canola or vegetable oil. Now, I had a comment before about there's no such thing as a canola plant, but canola oil comes from the rape plant. It's a rape seed. And because the word rape obviously is not very nice, nobody really wants to have rape oil. Canola stands for Canadian oil. So it's oil from Canada. So it's nothing bad about it. It's just it's a really good, nice, pure, doesn't really change the flavor of your food, and has a really high smoke point. So it's actually good for cooking. So you're just going to whisk all your wet ingredients together. Now, the original recipe says to mix your dry ingredients together, but I never find that necessary. Well, not never. I don't find it necessary for this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and add my flour. So it's 2 cups of flour. Again, if you're having it, it's just a 1/2 cup, 1 cup of flour, but there's 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, I'm curious if you guys have any food restrictions and you are going to alter this. I would love to hear how it turns out for you. All right? Yeah, like I said, I was going to consider using the whole wheat flour like my healthy banana bread, but I said, let me just teach you guys the original recipe and we can alter it in the future if we want. I have never made this recipe with the whole wheat flour. That's what I'm saying. So I've only ever made it with the white flour. So that's 2 cups of flour. And then onto the 2 cups of flour, we're going to put our 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, as well as the 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Now, if you have a preference to other seasonings you'd like to try in here, that's another thing that I would love to know. If there's something that you normally put in your banana bread or in sweet potato bread that you would like to add to here, let me know, because I really would love to share it with everybody if that's the case. And if you noticed, guys, there's no salt in this, which usually there is salt in a sweet recipe, but for some reason there isn't in this one, so we won't mess with it. It doesn't need it. It tastes delicious without it. Okay? So now we've added the cinnamon. Now we're going to go ahead and mix it up. Like I said, the original recipe was to, mix your dry ingredients together beforehand, but I didn't find it necessary as long as you incorporated it well. All right? And now we're going to switch from the whisk to the rubber spatula just to stir it in evenly. Now, if you're going to make a double batch and you're going to put the same kind of nuts in both batches, you can go ahead and add your nuts in now. But you'll see in a second why I didn't add my nuts in now. Because I'm going to make one of them with pecans, you say whichever way you prefer, and one of them with walnuts. While I'm doing that, I'll tell you the wonderful walnut story. My Aunt Joyce, technically Jim's Aunt Joyce, gave us fresh walnuts from her mom's walnut tree before her mom passed away. She was a sweet lady, and we really do miss her. But I've been using them sparingly ever since, only in special recipes. Okay? So this is a cool chopping board that Mom had. I believe it's probably from the Con Rancoon because I feel like that color blue comes from all of those things. But it's got a little divot in the cutting board, and this is perfect for chopping nuts. You can chop herbs and spices with it as well, however, but it's just perfect for chopping nuts. Just be careful, it's kind of sharp. But that's why I prefer to use this. But you can use just use a knife, but Martha Stewart has a great tip to use two chef's knives, but not everybody has two chef's knives, Martha. But basically you hold both handles in one hand and you hold both tips in the other hand, and you use the same method to rock them back and forth to chop your nuts. Okay? So I chopped my walnuts, and then I realized, what am I going to do with my walnuts? Because I can't really put them in the thing now. Okay. So we'll go ahead and put it in the pan. So I've sprayed the two loaf pans. I think that if you had the smaller loaf pan, I feel like this one is the 9 by 13. Not 9 by 13. That's not right. You know that's not right, right? Was it 5 by 13? I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about all of a sudden. 3 by 9? 3 by 9. If you have the smaller pan, then obviously the baking time will be a little different. If you have the larger pan, the baking time will be a little different. But I'm just going to divide this batter into two, the best that I can. Yes, I don't own a Food Network TV show, and I will scrape every last bit out of the bowl and off of the rubber spatula that I can, because we've talked about this. If you're new to my channel, hi. But whenever I do a cooking video, I'm always saying, I don't know how they do it, because they have kitchen prep help that's going to help them do the dishes and stuff. But not only is it not wasteful, not only does it give you more food to actually consume, but it also helps the dishwasher if you could scrape your bowls out really well. Okay? Now I'm just doing a little cleanup. Now I noticed that it's a little off, so I'm going to scoop some out of the one loaf and put it in the other. Don't worry, my hands are clean. I wash my hands incessantly when I bake. I just cut that part out of the video for you guys. I think the first couple of cooking videos that I did, you see me wash my hands constantly. But in this one, you don't really see me get up and leave the table all the time. All right, so now that I have them separated, I'm going to go ahead and add the walnuts to one. And I'm going to take a little fork, just a regular dinner fork or whatever. It's actually the one that I use to mash the bananas. And I'm going to use that to mix them around. I tried to use the rubber spatula, and I was like, Jerry, there's no room in here to do that. Come on now. Come on, Jerry. Come on. Jerry, use your brains. People do as I say, not as I do. No, I'm just kidding. So I went ahead and I got the fork that I mashed the bananas with, and I was like, yeah, that's better. So I'm kind of like folding the nuts in. But again, that's not totally 100% necessary. This bread would be just as delicious if the nuts were sitting just under the surface. But I like for every bite to have the same taste and texture. So I'm going to mix them all in. All right, and then we're going to do the same with the pecans. This is a 1/2 cup of pecans. It's actually probably a little less, but I didn't measure it because my measuring cup was already in the dishwasher. So whatever, sue me. I don't know, I feel goofy today. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the pecans. Lisa and I had a conversation because Lisa was raised in Georgia. She's like, I'm telling you. But actually, it was a trivia question on HQ the other night. Webster Dictionary says both pecans and pecans are both acceptable pronunciations. Okie dokie. Side note, yeah. So now you're going to put them in your 350 degree preheated oven for 40 to 50 minutes. Again, we're going to test it at 40. If the toothpick in the center comes out clean, then they're good to go. These actually did take 50 minutes in my oven, so I let you know that. And that's it, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed this recipe. I would love to hear if you tried it. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family. Anybody you know might be interested in seeing what they could do with their leftover sweet potatoes. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. And when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And as always, take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time. Bye.